used to these kinds of interfaces because, as I've been screeching from the rooftops in recent years, but certainly right now, I'm emphasizing this, that the geometry of light has changed so drastically, certainly since 2020. I mean, late December 2020 was really shift point. I think it was the 21st of December 2020 was really the end of time. But it's taken us, 6 years now, and certainly into next year, which will be the 7th year, it'll be a full cycle. It'll become very apparent that the end of time occurred at the end of 2020, actually, real term. And that goes back to the harmonic convergence of 1986 and 16th of August 86, and how that was a quantum leap toward the 21st of December 2012, the end of the long count Sulcan of the Mayans, and then that led to the 21st of December 2020, which was the end of the draconian imperial reptilian lizards who were controllers of the terrestrial plane up until that point. So that they were exfiltrated off world at that time after the 21st of December 2020, and that means that subsequent to that, their temporal proxies are still gibbering around, like the Faucis and the Pelosi's and the Bidens and the Clintons and of this world, and I can name them in all countries. Certainly in the Commonwealth countries, most of these sock puppets in the portals of power are that same class of subhuman. They're not fully ensouled beings. They are the temporal proxies of the Zeta Reticulan draconian elements, which have been exfiltrated off Earth. But those entities that are still in the Vatican and different portals of power around the world, they are the last temporal proxies of those galactic forces that have now left. So now the canvas, in a sense, in this Earth plane is being reset now for the emergence of Homo luminous. And that is because the average human being now is an aggregate of, or a composite of, all of the different stellar genomes and linguistics. They're all now embedded in the human genome. So we've come full circle. The human experiment, in that sense, has reached a fulmination stage. And Arise Homo sapiens is what I've been speaking to for many years, but always signing off with Arise Homo sapien. But really, it's about Arise Homo luminous, how we transition from sapien to luminous, because we now have the aggregate of the galactic genome composited into our genomic expression, and that coupled with the emergence of this new geometry of vibral light that is impacting the terrestrial plane, and in fact the entire solar system is being impacted at that level by this photonic light, this band of vibral light. That new geometry of light, as it intersects with the universal galactic genome in the human being, defines the quanta of the new angelic indigo. And that angelic indigo being is the technology of full spectrum vertical ascension, which is upon us in our generation. And our generation is not going to be dying at 70 years and 10. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, beautiful. All right. So for decades, if not hundreds of years, we've been bombarded with endless propaganda through every angle of the control grid. We call society, education, all institutions. In my eyes, this is what I call it our antenna. They're constantly trying to rattle our antenna. They're constantly trying to give us fear.
Oh, no, I can't bear you continuing like this. I love this conversation.
Oh, sorry.
We granted permission for those conversations, and we variously continue to invite the contrast, which we define as they, but they don't exist outside of self. It's all now about restoration and resurrection of full autonomy and sovereign expression. There is no they. There is no victim. Nothing is being done to us. We are, each one of us, either inviting that contrast to continue to be the contrast against which we define our angelic nature, or we are not. It is one or to other. But I respectfully, Elisa, and I don't mean to drown you out in your sensibilities, but respectfully, it is really now about zeroing into 0 point. And 0 point does not fucking negotiate. It is absolute still point as the I am, the witness. This is immanence. This is how God speaks to us through pure truth. It is not by degrees. It is not by a debate or it's not by degrees. So let's call it for what it is. I was never a victim of anything, ever. I was only ever orchestrating a trajectory of my soul into temporality, into time space, and the aspects of my own soul's journey that were unresolved projected through me into this realm, onto the canvas of fractal reality, and manifested as contrast, as the bogeyman, as war, disease, poverty, misery, separation, grief, whatever it is. Those are all aspects of the unresolved aspect of my divinity that I am reflecting and refracting back to me as the living witness. So we must take the conversation forward only as sons and daughters of God, fully owning our sovereign autonomy in the way that we speak to reality, because the way we speak to it is how we invite it to speak back to us.
Yeah, agreed. However, around me, I'm seeing, I'm totally with you there. Around me, I'm seeing a lot of people have started their journey on the dungeons of society, the Epstein files and whatnot. I had my own mother phone me and apologise to me because she thought I was clinically insane 15, 20 years ago when I was trying to tell her that. She's now apologised to me, and she is in the pits of darkness. I tried to tell her, you need to watch some spiritual, inspiring videos. You need to, start getting onto the higher consciousness of things and really investigate that to counteract that darkness. But she, I think, like many others, I think COVID woke a lot of people up and raised consciousness to an extent. I think this Epstein files drop has done that too, although I don't even think it touches the sides, as you know. But for these people, and I don't want to say normies, I don't really like that word, but for those that have remained asleep throughout all of these years, are starting to go, hang on a minute, what is going on? There's truth to what these conspiracy theorists have said. We are now fact checkers. We are no longer conspiracy theorists, right? So what advice would you give to these people?
I wouldn't waste my living breath. I have less than zero interest in having conversations with people who are not conversant with the flame of pure truth within the atom seed of their own relationship with self. I don't have the life force to offer. Now, my life is radiance. My path is glittering and is golden. The work that I'm doing, the comrades and the companions that I keep, the journey that I'm on is radiant and is affirming and creative and expansive and goodly and godly and immanent. I'm going to live and embody and enact and manifest these living principles. I'm not going to speak about them. I'm not going to have conversations over the garden fence. I'm not going to try to argue people over dinner tables in Tel Aviv or in Geneva or in Manhattan or in Hollywood. I travel all the time, constantly. I'm no longer interested in having those conversations with people. Now, if somebody comes and asks a question, that's different. That is very different. Anyone coming and asking a question, I will answer always in honor and always to the best of my ability. But when you say, what would you say to those people? I wouldn't say anything to those people.
If they did ask, I've got people asking me, so what about this? What about this? And
what's the question then? Let's define what is the question that they're asking. Well, and if it's asked in earnest, if the prayer is fashioned aright, it'll be answered by the God in your own heart.
Agreed. I am seeing a lot of people mind fucked though over this, and I'm surrounded by them in little suburban Sydney, so it's very hard to find people like yourself to connect to.
You're in the capital of Satanism on Earth.
I know.
Sydney, Australia, in my view, is the heartland of Satanism.
Right. Yes, and I'm shining bright in the middle of it, as well as trying to, bring up kids that are open-minded. It's very hard. It's a very hard balance to.
It's why the geometry of your life is perfect, and it's why you are who you are, where you are, and why you are right here, right now. So good on you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so let's move on to something a little bit more exciting. And I want to talk about the age of Aquarius and the 26,000 year we're ending. It's coming into a new cycle. Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, at the risk of boring anyone who's seen any of my other interviews in the last few weeks, I am speaking to this all the time. But yeah, the 26,000 grand precession of the equinox. And again, one needs to view time as being the ultimate fiction. But so long as we gave ourselves to the fiction of time, which is the fiction of the government, which is the fiction of 1260 time imposed by the Vatican, which is connected to the crowns of Europe, principally the crown of England, and the crown etymologically stemming from Cronus. The crown is Cronus. Cronus is the titan that devours its own young. It's a cannibal. It's a child raping cannibal. Cronus, the father of time. Think about it. The angry, jealous gods of old, the Yahwehs, the Jehovahs, these creatures, these egregores and demiurges masquerading as gods that suck the life force out of trillions to the power of trillions of human souls over millennia through a psychic cosmic straw, as we fed our life force back to them by abdicating our thrones as sons and daughters of God. And we gave up that force through devotion and worship and banging our fucking heads on the temple floor and all of the genuflecting nonsense that religiosity has indentured us into. And all of that prana, that life force that went into the field, was sucked into manifesting the very gods that then devoured us. So that was a feedback loop. Time is a feedback loop. It's a technology.
Yeah.
It's a great parasite. And we're now at a point where we are no longer required to be indentured to it. I completely forgot the thrust of your question.
The 26,000, we're entering the.
Okay, so the 26,000 years describes the grand precession of the equinox, which is the grand cycle of time that we measure reality by, which is as our plane of existence moves in our solar system, moves around the outer fringes of the Milky Way. It takes us 26,000 odd years to spiral around the whole Milky Way. But what's really happening is that the black hole, so-called black hole, in the center of the spiral of the Milky Way, our galaxy, is a 0 point. That is where the breath of God issues, and it's a plasma field of vibral light that issues out of that spiral galaxy, that disk, when you turn it on its side. So every 13,000 years, we pass through that photon band on either side of that equation, that 26,000 year spiral, and there's an ecliptic, and we pass into a descension when we hit that, and then we go into a 13,000 year semi-arc, which is a galactic sleep, and then we break through that photon band into a galactic day, which is another 13,000 years. So that 26,000 years describes the mechanics of duality, of binary reality, of duality itself. But we've just come from the galactic sleep cycle, the descension from Noah and the ark, 13,000 years ago, the fall of Atlantis. We've gone into that 13,000 year sleep. We hit the low point, the nadir point, about 7,000 years ago. Real Dungeons and Dragons kind of stuff going on then, and moved up toward the light of the photon band, broke through that recently. 21st of December 2020 defines the moment at which we breached that membrane and moved onto the other side, and for the first time could bring in the light of the new geometry of light being issued through Alpha Omega, through God. So we pass beyond the draconian elements of the great sleep into this emergence of the angelic indigo. We are beyond the reach of the devil, of the bogeyman now. We just have, many of us don't know it. We're still living in the echo of the shadow of time. But it's just an idea, and we need to move beyond the idea. Which is why I've been urging people since 2012 and 2013 expressly, been urging people to please stop looking at clocks, stop celebrating time, stop celebrating anniversaries, stop counting your birthday, how old you are. I genuinely, I've forgotten how old I am. I don't do the calculus any longer. I'm sure people around me will whisper it into my ear, but I see it as a great affront. It's a rude thing to do. We need to move beyond temporality, because it's how we program death into the DNA of one another, by adhering or worshipping a false god called time, called Cronus, and having wristwatches on. You look at the sickness of these people. I mean, people like Mr. Beast, who's a popular icon now on media because he's a rich motherfucker wearing boxer shorts, when he's not pretending of being a high financier. So it's all fun and games stuff, but it's obscene. The man's got hundreds of millions of dollars worth of watches. My friend Sylvester Stallone, who I love, I've known and spent time with him over the years and absolutely adore him. I see he's just auctioned off his Patek Philippe watch. I think, yes, do it. And they've disowned him, for that. He's no longer part of the family. I don't know what his thinking is there, but the point I'm trying to make is everyone should be selling their goddamn watches. They should be put in museums, but we should not be wearing wristwatches. It is such an abominable satanic technology. Not Luciferian, it's not just false light, it's satanic, it's Saturnian in its logic. And it's literally creating a thrum. It's creating a pulse of falsity. 1260 time is a pulse that is the pulse of death. It's the pulse of entropy. It's why disease and mold and fungus are these things, that elements, these lower frequency elements, are allowed into our paradise. It's through the function of time, the illusion of time being made manifest. So we have to stop. We have to consciously cease and desist and step back from the illusion and delusion of time. Stop wishing each other happy anything. Just start to celebrate immanence, which is immortality, which is the living moment, as a never-ending moment. In no time at all, our immortal junk DNA will become resurrected, and we will be able to move back into the Edenic privilege. This is technology that's written into our genetics, but we have to use the mind in order for the body to follow.
Oh, that is beautiful. I actually have had an argument with my children this week because I refuse to buy them watches. I don't wear a watch. My partner doesn't wear a watch. We won't do that. And I've showed them the symbology. I mean, they're only 12 and 8. They might, sometimes I think I should pull back a little. But I've shown them the symbology. If you 12 minus 6 is 6, everything works out to be 6 on this clock. And then I went into the story of the Gregorian calendar. How they've changed everything. We've got 13 full moons in a year. It just doesn't make sense. Why we have a leap year? This is all on their Saturnian clock, right?
That's right. My mum was the greatest. I mean, I think I was 5, 4 or 5. When she sat me and my sister down, she dragged a little Christmas tree into the house and put some pretzels on it and some lights or tinsel and said, "Kids, this is the first and last Christmas we're ever going to celebrate as a family." And she said, "We're never doing it again. And we're not doing birthdays either." Can you believe it? She did that in the 1970s, God bless her.
Wow.
And I really thank my mother for being the first to do that. And I didn't understand what her rationale was. And certainly her rationale wasn't as evolved and as sophisticated as mine is, which is about stop programming death into the DNA. My mother just had the right instinct that it was an abomination to be celebrating Christmas, and we should just stop that functioning as part of that cycle. But in any event, I congratulate you and I embrace your partner as well for being the right stuff. And you carry right on.
Yeah, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. Christmas is definitely a challenge I'd like to take on. I don't know how my kids would deal with that. But
give them 2 other days in the year that they can choose, to give each of them a choice and say you can either choose, whether you can choose another day of the year each. And we're going to celebrate on that day. We're going to have a celebration. We're going to go out. We're going to create something beautiful children special, but we ain't going to do the satanic Christmas ritual.
It does appear, though, that humanity is towards an inevitable global AI control grid, or, depending how you look at it, I think AI could be used as an amazing, beautiful new Earth, as you would say. What do you think of that? Where do you think we're going to be in 5 to 10 years?
I'm not that interested in speculating into the future. Again, I'm as disinterested in the future as I am in the past. I'm only interested in the imminent now, and I'm not trying to sound like a ponce. I'm generally interested in the living moment. But let's just speculate. 5 or 6 years from now, what I can tell you what's going to happen in 2032, we're going to be inducted into the Galactic Confederation of Worlds. So there's going to be widespread. Everyone on Earth will know about our galactic heritage, about the fact that we are all extensions of the star nations, that the human being by definition and default is the galactic genome. That's all going to be common knowledge. We're going to be in a place of zero-point learning. Are there going to be smart cities and that kind of transhuman scenario? Without any question of doubt, yes, that's going to be very much a part of the equation. On the other side of the equation are going to be the Adamite humans, the new Earthers, my people, and we are establishing right now already our own micronations, our own jurisdictions. We have our own free energy technologies. We're building our own quantum computers this year. We're launching our own global financial system, economic system. We don't need to participate in the contracts, the bonds, or the spells of the Atlantean system beyond a certain point. And next year, 2027, really rather defines that breakpoint, that breakaway civilization point where the new Earth jurisdictions, technology, and fellowship lock and load fully into becoming an alternative